All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Good evening, fall to one and all. This is the Warp Speed. Lieutenant Commander's log stardate 11021.7. And I do thank you for traveling the cosmos with me. And, of course, for being brave, valorous, and inquisitive enough to also travel the dark recesses of the human mind, of our existential experience. We're going to do a little different thing for the evening. I know that we have a lot to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. No, for the most part, this is a venue that focuses on all things organized violence. Nonetheless, we are going to be talking about other things that are of interest, and I will try and anchor it to something boxing related if I can, right? But as an individual of curiosity with a lot of questions and no answers, I like to ask the questions for the type of answers that I am seeking. I sure am an ignorant individual, though I do not like to be in that ignorant status, but I do call myself a master ignoramus. And as such, the ignorant individual asks questions. We may seem stupid, you may ridicule us, but it's okay. I'm not a wise individual. I've made too many mistakes, and it's taken too long for me to learn from them that I can laugh at myself and let others laugh at me. Nonetheless, I hope that you are of that curious mind state so that we can enjoy this evening. This is going to be a dark, macabre episode where we are going to talk about a lot of things that may scare us, they may make us think, and because they may make us think, that right there is a threat. Why would thinking be a threat? Well, you never know where your mind will take you in the pursuit of answers, right? Good even fall to one and all. Mr. Vince Vargas, good even fall to you, sir. Thank you very much. Oh, yo. Wonder how that works. Both the Zone and ESPN pay-per-view have it purchased, right? Is that a battle of itself or does it matter? Numbers game. Well, I think that's a very interesting question, but I believe that they're going to end up splitting it, right? Because unless it's going to be something where they're going to be splitting the pay-per-view buys by whoever and whatever venue sells the most, and whatever you sell you keep. If that's going to be the case, then I fear that ESPN would lose on that competition, I guess we could say it, right? Because ESPN is something that is mostly Americentric, so based here in the United States. And for the most part, maybe you can see some of these events that ESPN puts up in Canada. And I'm sure that a lot of the events that take place at ESPN, hosted by Mr. Bob Arum, Top Rank, legendary matchmaker right there and promoter, some of those events will take place in the UK and other parts of the world, but those people buy the rights in order to broadcast them over there in their parts of the world. The Zone is unique and different in the sense that it is a global entity. It is based in the UK, right? It is owned by, if I'm not mistaken, some kind of a German or Russian individual. I believe a very influential Jewish uh, man, but it is a global entity that has established itself in corners such as Australia, the Philippines, Mexico, the US, Canada, UK, so forth and so on. I think they cover about 100 different places of the world, different countries. And well, for the most part, I would say they have about 2 million or so people that purchase their product on a monthly basis that subscribe to it. ESPN, I think it's just American based. But if that's the game that they're going to play, well, then you would have to consider that ESPN would have to have invested in the promotion of this fight night for tomorrow, one of the biggest, grandest fight nights of all, one that I've never heard of. It's really unheard of. The level of competition, the names that were going to be presented, just a very good card, right? And I've not seen much promotion on the side of Top Rank, but I have seen a lot of it from the Matchroom, the Zone side. So I think it's just going to be one of those things where they're going to have to. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's the good question, Mr. Vargas. Maybe whatever you sell, you keep, right? And then maybe it gets a little more complicated depending on where the fighters fight at. Maybe, if you have a couple of top rank fighters, depending on their per split or their popularity, who knows? It's going to be a complicated matter. But that's a very good question. It's just above my pay grade. But thank you for asking that question, Mr. Vargas. And I hope you are well of health and sane of mind. I hope you are drinking some Jarritos or some Coors Light. That Silver Bullet. Ladies and gentlemen, this broadcast is called The Nasty Business, and I do accentuate the word business, of organ donation. Now, when we think about organ donation, I would like to ask you guys, I would like to engage you. When you think about the act of donating your bodily organs, what do you think about? Right? Where do you think your body goes when you say, yes, I would like to donate my body to science. Yes, I would like to donate my organs to an individual that may need it. When you decide to put that little blue sticker in the back of your driver's license, where do you think your body will go once your essence departs from your physical temple? I don't know. Where do you think it goes? Right? And because I don't know, I started to research and I found some very interesting articles, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, where you think your body goes is not necessarily where it actually goes. And it can be devastating to your body, which of course is devoid of life, devoid of your spirit. A lot of incredibly macabre, grotesque things can take place to your body. Things that have broken a lot of hearts to the people that are those deceased people's survivors, right? Now, sacrifice, right? What exactly does it mean to sacrifice? Right? Well, sacrifice, if we go and Google the definition of it, the definition according to Oxford, it states it's an act of slaughtering an animal or person or surrendering a possession as an offering to God or to divine or supernatural figures, or to offer or kill as a religious sacrifice. Now, of course, we know that that's not always necessarily the case. That is an extreme definition or two of what a sacrifice means. But it also means something more commonplace. An act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important or worldly. And that's where I wanted to go with that, right? I think when a person perishes and they decide to donate their organs, they do so in an action of giving up something that most people would value, which is their body, for the sake of something else regarded as more important or worthy. And what would that more important or worldly thing be? Well, the furtherance of another person's life. You see, a lot of people donate their body parts thinking that they're doing something for someone else, something that is valuable, which is the continuation of that person's life, right? For example, if a person is undergoing renal failure, right? And that their kidneys no longer function to adequate percentiles. And then they start getting dialysis because they want to avoid the poisoning of those things that enter into the body that their kidneys no longer can filter out. Well, those people are in hopes that they won't have to sit there for 6 hours every 2 days or so getting their body purified and recycled, right? They would prefer that somebody out there would be so kind as to donate their necessary body parts, because now they're unnecessary because they died, in order to make their life more qualified, a more qualified way of living, right? I know about these things because I deal with a lot of these things, dialysis and organ donations and things of the sort. No, 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 I'm not a butcher. No, 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 I'm not a doctor. Nothing like that. But I've been around circumstances where I've had to involve myself in those type of conversations. And I think that's what people think about when they decide to give up their innards, their viscera. That's a fancy way of saying the stuff inside of your body, because they want to do something worthwhile for someone else, a stranger. Look how altruistic that is. You are dead, and yes, they could just bury you, and yes, they could just cremate your body, and yes, at the end of the day, you're dead. It doesn't matter what they do with your body because you're gone. But yet, right, you are doing something good for someone else, a person that you don't know anything about. That says, that's as holy and as altruistic as you can possibly be, right? You care so much about humanity to the point that once you are dead and gone, you decide to give what little remains of you in order to do something good for someone else. And not just something good for someone that you know, it's something good for somebody you don't even know. You don't know if they are good people, and the reason that they are receiving dialysis, or maybe waiting for a liver transplant, which is actually much worse than renal matters, because renal, you got two kidneys. Something, you know, nephrological, like the renal system. That's something that you can survive off of if you have one functioning kidney. But if you have issues with your liver, well, you only have one. So anything hepatic, anything having to do with the liver, obviously, is quite devastating, right? So, long story short, what am I getting at? If you donate your body parts to medicine, to science, and whatnot, for the most part, you can consider yourself an individual that cares so much about another person, even a stranger, that you want to give him a second chance, right? That's your gift to those that remain here on this earthly sphere. But I started to research a little bit more, guys, right? And there's many reasons why people choose not to donate. There's many reasons why people choose to donate also, right? And I'm just going to give you a rundown of some of the reasons why people do not choose to donate organs. And the very first one that comes to mind, guys, is that if you believe that a medical practitioner knows that you are an organ donor, your fear will be that you will not get the best quality of medical attention in your need. You fear that you will not get the cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or heart shocks, all of those things, ventilation, and all of those things to keep you alive artificially in order for yourself to get out of your stupor, get out of your coma, or whatever kind of paralytic and brain the dormant state that you find yourself in, you want the doctors to do everything possible to give you a fighting chance in order for you to snap out of it and come back to you and say, hey, I looked death in the face and I survived, right? So people fear that if they donate organs, the doctor will, with more facility, say, guys, I'm sorry to say, in my medical profession, in my opinion, he's no longer going to make it. So that the family is forced to accept the professionalism and the expertise of this medical practitioner and say, okay, pull the plug, right? They fear that if you donate organs, they will be quicker at relinquishing all attempts at allowing you a second chance because of the fact that they can use your organs now dead to put him into another person's body. And why would they want to do that? If a medical practitioner or a doctor's job is to keep you alive, it doesn't matter if they should keep you alive or the next person. Why? Doesn't matter. Well, plain and simple. There's money to be made, right? Once you are one step out the door from this existence, and another person is waiting on the list to get to themselves an organ that will further their existence. Once that person gets themselves a shot at getting that organ, they're going to make hefty sums of money. So people don't want to donate because they don't want the doctor to have an incentive to give up on you, right? That's a valid reason. That's one of the reasons. But and it is actually the most common reason, according to this medical publication called pubmed.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. Right? The most common reason cited for not wanting to donate organs were mistrust of doctors, hospitals, and the organ allocation system. Also, a belief in the black market for organs in the United States, and the servingness issues. Once that organs would go to someone who brought on his or her own illness, or or could have been a bad person. Yep, those are very good reasons why not to, right? If you distrust the medical industry and you think that there is some kind of a black market where they're just trying to harvest organs in order for them to make a profit out of that, yeah, I could definitely understand why you would be reluctant to donate your bodily organs once you pass. But the other one is also a very valid reason, right? Which is that you, unfortunately, about to perish. You may be a bit bitter and resentful of the fact that you are about to go away from this earthly sphere, transcend to another material type, and that the person who is going to get your organ may not be a good person, quote unquote, or may have been responsible for their conditions that requires them to need an organ, right? For example, if I myself, I am a self-professed alcoholic, if I myself have damaged my kidneys or my liver to the point that I need organs to keep me alive, this person that's about to donate their organs may not want my body parts, their body parts, to make it into my body because they feel I am undeserving, right? But here's the thing, you relinquish your rights to your body parts once you perish, right? You gotta understand that part. You must know what happens to your body once you decide to donate to science or to medicine, right? You generally give up all your rights to that. In fact, your body has no say in what happens to your body afterwards if you willingly have decided to give up your body parts. Even if your mother, even if your wife, even if your children protest, if it is written in your paperwork, if you have the sticker on the back of your driver's license that says you are an organ donor, they will defy whatever their wishes and hopes are for your body, and they will take you away from them because their job is not to comply with the request and fulfill their desires. It is to fulfill your desires. And if your desire is to give up your organs, say la vie, right? But you cannot say I want it only to go to a young person. I want it to go to a person that was born with these type of congenital issues that require these organs. You cannot say that. Once a person gives up their organs, they are, for the most part, if not mistaken, nameless, and you don't know whose organs they get. In fact, I believe there are some disclosures when a person is about to receive an organ that states something to the effect that you are getting an organ of a person of which there is no type of medical history, only medical tests that determine that those bodily organs are functional and adequate and healthy enough to be transplanted, right? So you don't know if you're getting the kidneys of a 10-year-old. You don't know if you're getting the, I don't know, let's say, heart of a 60-year-old sumo wrestler. You don't know what you're getting. You just accept that you're going to get something there, if I'm not mistaken. Now, needless to say, these are very complicated matters, right? Because you are relinquishing a lot of your rights. You're trying to do something good and you want to condition the goodness that you want to do for someone else, but you can't. That's the contract, right? So these people would choose not to do those things because of those things that make them reluctant, right? I understand that. I really do. I understand that a person may not want to donate to, let's say, a mass murderer, a person in prison who's killed 7 people, and because he's on the list for organ transplantation, they give it to him. There's things outside of your control once you decide to donate your organs. But there are other reasons for why people decide not to, and those also can include religion, religious reasons, right? Islam in the Muslim people, they do support organ donation during life and after death to save lives. But they condition it by saying that as long as it doesn't harm the donor or desecrate the body, right? So they do have some conditions. They will allow people to donate organs to save lives, or they can donate organs while they're alive, not necessarily have to wait until they're dead, as long as it doesn't harm the donor or desecrate the body. So the body of the person that's going to be deceased, they cannot be desecrated. They have to be handled adequately and with respect to their religious beliefs, right? And it also must not harm the donor. In other words, I would speculate that that means that the organ has to be a healthy organ, right? So those are just a couple of those things right there, right? Buddhism's the Buddhists don't have rules for or against organ donation, you know, because their thing is about not leaving any kind of physical materials behind for the most part. Their thing is transcendence, the lack of resurrection in order to reach nirvana, right? Not resurrection. So maybe keeping something behind like a physical manifestation of yourself, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Buddhists do not think that the body is anything more than just a vessel that can come in different shapes, forms, appearances. But at the end of the day, we're all, just spirits that need to transcend and find the right pathway towards the lessening of suffering. And they believe that reincarnation and all of those things are types of suffering because you come back to a physical form where you are to suffer once again. The heartbreaks of loss and love and death and all of those negative cycles, according to them. Of course, I'm just, paraphrasing or maybe misquoting or just completely being ignorant, like I always am, and trying to describe what some of these more complicated religions may believe, right? So I apologize if I'm completely ignorant of that. The Catholics do support organ donation as an act of charity or love, and we do know that charity is one of the big traits of the Catholic religion, and they do say that it's as long as it's for good and for the others and not for financial gain. The Jehovah's Witness, they do not encourage organ donation. In fact, they don't even allow blood transfusions, if I'm not mistaken. but they believe that it is a matter of personal conscience. And they also required that all organs and tissues be completely drained of blood before transplantation. See, there is something about blood that, for the most part, tries to work as a dissuasion for why they shouldn't either receive nor donate organs. And in the Jewish religion, Judaism encourages organ donation to save lives, but also emphasizes respect for the deceased, so that the body should be buried according to their Jewish credences, right? So, of course, what we're looking at here, guys, is that there are many complicated reasons for why you can choose to donate and why you choose not to donate, from skepticism to, you know, perhaps bitterness to religious matters and all of those things, right? Mr. Vince Vargas says, I didn't live a clean life. Hello, drinking, and they don't want mine. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Vargas. Yeah, that's okay, right? Right. Make sure you don't stick that little sticker in the back of your driver's license. Make sure you say no to organ donation. You don't want your, Coors Light drowned your kidneys making it to 13-year-old soccer players, right? Yeah, that's maybe that's the reason why I've not decided to to donate organs. And of course, there are other beliefs, right? There's people that believe, and I think I got this from an episode of X Files. There was an individual that donated some body parts, and that body part of that individual ended up making it to that person, and then that person started to either relive some experiences or dreams of the person that donated their organs, or they changed as a result. They took on a duality of personality, something to that effect. I remember there was something interesting like that. But yeah, there's many spiritual para paranormal things that one factors in when we delve into matters as complicated and as personal as organ donation, right? But you're probably saying, okay, where's this dark, scary stuff? Where's this macabre and nastiness, right? So, okay, maybe about 15 years ago or so, there was a rumor. I'm not too sure if it's a rumor. I'm just going to call it a rumor because I never found any substantiation for it, right? That they were kidnapping children across the border down in Mexicali and Tijuana. And there was this very, very big rumor going on around there, that they had this open air market and they're huge over there and they sell all kinds of trinkets and everything on the cheap, right? People cross the border to go to the border towns and they buy stuff on the cheap. I know they buy medicine and all kinds of things that you need a medical prescription over there. And now over there you can just go get your chloroquine or whatever you need to whenever you want on the cheap. Now, the rumor was that there was a lady walking around with her daughter, and that she was walking through one of these open air venues and there was a door right there, or many doors right there. And of course these are heavily foot trafficked areas, right? And that she was looking at some kind of trinkets and she was with her child, I think 9 years of age, and that she just turned around for a second, and when she turned back her child was not there. She just saw like some person running with another person, and from a distance they were already running away with a child carrying them, and that they disappeared into one of those alleyways, and that she was screaming. But of course all the people there, nobody knows what's going on. Everybody minding their own business. Nobody pays attention to the plights of another, right? So she was screaming, where's my daughter, where's my daughter, they're taking my daughter. And then the police was notified there was a kidnapping, and they start looking and so forth and so on. And then 25-30 minutes later, they find a body nearby, opened up from the chest, emptied and hollowed out from the organs. Apparently, a child was kidnapped, taken into one of those doorways in those dark alleyways. And in fact, it wasn't even dark at that moment. According to the rumor is that it happened in broad daylight. And somehow somebody snatched a child and they killed them, likely while still alive. They harvested their organs, stitched them back up, apparently, and they put him right there, nearby where they took him. After the police had already scouted the area, they go and put him back in the area where they had already looked, right? Because nobody's gonna go back to a place that they've already cleared of any evidence. They find the child there, and of course, to the lament of the mother, the child has been stitched up and is emptied. They harvested this child for its organs. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think I may have seen this in one of those Hispanic news places like Primer Impacto or whatever those things are called. They're very sensational news reporting, right? So take that with a grain of salt. Take that however you want. But I'm sure you've heard similar stories. Similar stories about how in China they have the Uyghurs. They're a type of Muslim Chinese that they have these concentration camps and they make them work. And then they try and indoctrinate them into communism and the beliefs of the Chinese. They try and remove them from their religious beliefs, brainwashing in essence. And that whenever they are falling out of line or completely rebellious, they not only kill them, they harvest their organs and sell them to the highest bidder. I'm sure you've heard those stories, right? So there is where I start investigating. I started to investigate whether or not there is some truth to these things. Now, I wasn't able to find much evidence or any more further reports on that one case that took place down south in the border towns, right? But I did start, before going there, I started to research exactly what it means, first off, to donate. Now, I ran into a lot of very strange, incredible stories, right? First off, starting right here with this one, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to enlighten you, right? And what may happen to your body. Human tissue donation. A report written by Joseph Shapiro by NPR, which is mostly a radio station, National Public Radio. In this report on NPR.org, titled Mastermind of Body Stealing Scheme Dies. Apparently, Dr. Michael Mastromarino died Sunday after battling liver and bone cancer. He was 49. Mastromarino pleaded guilty to body stealing, whatever that is, it's actually in quotes. In 2008, he was sentenced to up to 58 years in prison. But he continued to insist that he had been misunderstood. He spoke to NPR, working with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists last year from a prison near Buffalo, New York. This is a New York provider, right? He's a tall, bald man, according to this individual, dressed in green prison garb. And, quote, this is what he states, "This case was completely blown out of proportion. They made me out to be like I was doing something completely outrageous." Now, the report goes on to says that, but what Mastromarino did was outrageous. He was a dental surgeon who gave up his license after he got addicted to drugs. Then he got a license to sell human tissue and profited in an industry that provides important medical products. Tissue includes anything that's not an organ, including tendons, ligaments, skin, bones, heart valves, and corneas. Tissue is recovered, sterilized, and turned into medical products. And they go on to give you a couple of examples of what it is that you can do with the tissue, right? Now, we know that tissue is not just skin. It includes all the gamut of the things that I just described. And it says a tendon from a cadaver can be used to repair a torn knee ligament. Oh, that's great, right? You have bad knees, there you go. A tendon from a cadaver can help repair that. Veins are used in heart bypass operations. Whoa, there you go, right? A person needs a heart bypass, and guess what? If somebody has donated their body, their veins could help mend that heart. Bone material can be crushed into powder and used to help mend a broken leg or build up the jaw around a dental implant. Nice, right? For the most part, one would think that Maestro Marino is an angel, right? If he's taking from bodies that no longer have any use besides just feeding grubs and worms and all kinds of critters underground, then you're definitely maximizing the use of that body when you decide to save lives, right? And recycle these things. But see, here's where it gets a little interesting. They say that Maestro Marino did not get family's permission in order to perform any of these profitable activities, right? Instead, he set up a network of undertakers and paid them up to $1,000 for each corpse. Then he removed the tissue and faked the paperwork that showed he had obtained the consent. Wow. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. This individual right here found it so profitable to work around the industry of body parts that he gave up his dental practice, right? The dental practice guys, they make big money. They make big money. So this thing right here was so profitable that he decided to no longer become a person that corrects dental matters, dental crowns, bridges, routine dental workups and things of this sort. No, he said, you know what? Dealing with recycled body parts is so profitable that I don't care to take another person's teeth into my practice. I don't care to breathe in the foul stench of their breath, right? Let me breathe in the foul stench of cadavers that are decrepit and rotting. And let me build a network of people that work in morgues that I can pay them $1,000 per body, and then I will forfeit paperwork that says that I got consent from the survivor's family in order to do these things, right? That's nefarious, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, the level of schemery, of conspiry to do this, man. You must think, okay, this person cannot get away with this for so long. Let's see what goes on, right? Wow, it gets even worse. In some cases, he took tissue that should have been rejected because the person may have died from major cancer. Then he forged documents to say that that person died from more benign common matters so that he can sell those organs. Wow, he's introducing material that is not fit for donation. These people can actually get quite sickly from organs and tissues that aren't approved because they will infect them with cancer. They will get diseases like AIDS and whatnot. My goodness, that's incredible. He did admit that it was a very lucrative business. He admitted to NPR, and he says, quote, and no one talks about it, you know, the gorilla in the room. The gorilla is how much money everybody's making. I'm just being honest. Right? So this is a doctor that's obviously just out there. He has no need to lie anymore because he's going to spend 58 years behind bars. And he's telling everybody, listen, guys, people make big money. Maybe I was just a bigger scoundrel, and maybe they don't forge papers. But if you think that these doctors aren't in the business of making money off of these organs, you're dead wrong. That's what he's trying to imply, right? And it goes on to say, NPR wrote, you can't sell body parts. The law is clear about that. Listen. Apparently, this is $1 billion industry. But NPR just last year, before this report was written, stated you cannot sell body parts. The law is clear about that. But you can take that what's considered a reasonable fee for your work. Unlike organ donation, where a heart or kidney goes straight from a donor to a recipient, tissue goes through many steps. Is tissue taken from the body at the hospital a funeral home or morgue, there's a facility fee. Is the body moved? There's a transportation fee. A procurement team takes the body parts. That's another fee. Then companies take the parts and turn them into scores of medical products. As Maestro Marino says, there are many more and more fees. Now, what is Maestro Marino indicating? He's indicating that although he may have been profiting from that, he's not the only one. The people who work in medical transport, they get paid. The doctors that perform the duties of grafting and introduction of these tissues, they get paid. They cannot sell the parts, but they can get paid for the services, right? So there's a fine line there, right? You can't sell the parts, so the parts really don't matter, but everything regarding the handling of the parts, that's a very lucrative business, right? So he's just exposing these guys. This is a scoundrel, by the way. He's just airing out the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. Unfortunately, Maestro Marino died on Sunday at a hospital in New York. He had been diagnosed with metastatic liver cancer that had spread to his brain and bones. Wow, isn't that karma, right? A doctor that dealt in tissue and transplantation, he likely could have benefited from a brain donation, a bone donation, liver transplantation, and he didn't get it. He died in prison. Yeah, that's called poetic justice. That is called karma. Now, more closer to that right there, right? There's another. This is an incredible story, guys. You're not going to believe me this. When I read this to you, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? My goodness, but this apparently takes place so often in New York, right? Incredible. I can't believe this, right? Listen to this right here. In another part of New York, Buffalo, New York, New Jersey, and the Sydney Morning Herald. A report written in July 24, 2009. So this is about what? 15 years ago. So now, this is how long it's been going on. Organ trafficking. Rabbis arrested over massive crime ring. Wow. Yes, you heard that right. Rabbis were arrested over a massive crime ring. Right. Now let's see what a rabbi is. A rabbi is a Jewish scholar or teacher, especially one who studies or teaches Jewish law. Right. Now, I'm not too sure if you know what Jewish law is, but I believe that the Jewish book on Jewish law is called the Talmud. Now, if you want to really like go through some stuff that'll make you just do a double takes, read some of the most controversial verses that are found in the Talmud. You won't believe. You won't believe what you can find written there in the Talmud, which, if I'm not mistaken, it is the religious scholars' compendium on Jewish religious law, right? But anyways, since I'm no expert in those matters, I won't speak about them. But these guys apparently are experts at Jewish law, right? And for the most part, they are the equivalent of a priest for a Catholic, or a pastor for a Christian, evangelical, or otherwise. But these people entrusted with the word of the Supreme, they were arrested in a massive crime wave. Now let's delve into that. U.S. agents have arrested 44 elected officials and Jewish rabbis in New Jersey in a huge anti-corruption sweep across the state. Charges of extortion, bribery, money laundering, human organ trafficking were stunning, even for a state long notorious for official corruption and organized crime. Wow, what a whopper, right? They're taking disses at the state of New Jersey like an MFer. They're saying that the state is notorious for official corruption and organized crime. And if that's not enough, now it seems like religious experts entrusted with spreading the word, the gospel of the supreme beings, even they cannot be trusted. Five rabbis were among suspects, along with the mayors. Listen, guys, the mayors of Hoboken, Secaucus, and Ridgefield, New Jersey, the Jersey City deputy mayor and a council president, two state assembly members, and numerous other politicians. Prosecutors said all of these guys are suspects. It was massive. It was at the highest levels of debauchery, of criminality. These were political leaders, mayors, councilors. Goodness, how high does the notorious practice of making money off of the casualty of others, how high up the levels, the echelons of politics and power does it reach? I don't know. We're barely getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourself. Get yourself your jarrito. Drink your Coors Light. Make yourself at home. This is, as you can tell, gonna be a bumpy ride, right? Quote, the politicians willingly put themselves up for sale, says U.S. Attorney General for New Jersey, Ralph Marra. While clergymen cloak their extensive criminal activity behind a facade of rectitude. The raids began shortly after dawn on Thursday, officials stated, targeting a who's who of state leaders. And it goes on to say that they had cuffed a bunch of suspects, including rabbis, that were still wearing their traditional Orthodox Jewish garb. They pulled them into New Jersey. The sweep was believed to be one of the biggest such operations ever, and a state long associated with corruption and famous as the setting of the hit mafia television drama The Sopranos. Apparently, this was a 10-year probe and statewide corruption. It was codenamed the bid rig. Why was it called the bid rig? Well, a bid is when you put up an offer and you don't budge from that. It's a well considered offer for the business of an individual, right? What do you think they were bidding on? Who do you think was bidding on? I would muster to say that rich individuals that needed body parts were bidding to see who would take the body parts for the highest price that these rabbis, these mayors, these individuals would accept, right? That's the only thing that I can think of. The Democratic state governor, John Corzine, stated, the scale of corruption we're seeing as this unfolds is simply outrageous and cannot be tolerated. Any corruption is unacceptable anywhere, anytime, by anybody. And of course, the authorities raided several synagogues, arrested several chief rabbis, including Syrian Jews in the U.S., and one rabbi by the name of Levi Isaac Rosenbaum was charged with conspiring to broker the sale of a human kidney for transplant. Right. The business was to entice vulnerable people to give up a kidney for 10,000 US bucks, which then he would turn around and sell for $160,000. Listen to this, guys. This rabbi, Isaac Rosenbaum, would entice people to give up an organ like a kidney. And again, we discussed about why a kidney is an easy organ to donate, because you only need one to function, right? So they have an extra, and if you want to make 10 quid, go for it. I can hook it up. And of course, when a rabbi is telling you, this is a person of the faith, a person that of course holds high esteem in the community, if a rabbi cannot convince you to do something, No one can. So of course you must likely consider that the rabbi was probably telling somebody, look, you're doing it for the right things. Don't worry about it. These people will pay you even. They're good people. They're our brothers. They're people of faith or whatever. They're, business leaders. They hire people. They contract people. They're good people. They need to live. You got two good kids. What's the problem? Right? Or what is it that the Sopranos say? What do you forget about it or whatever, right? Right? Well, I don't know if that's. I think those are Italians, not so much the Jews, but whatever, right? They probably convinced these people to give up one organ for 10,000 bucks, which he then in turn went and flipped for as high as 160. Now they only say one case of it, but of course, if they know enough about the price that they were offering and how much he could make, then you understand that the only reason he knows how much he can make is because that's already happened. So there is some antecedents, there is a history to know that he can make up to 160,000. So of course we can imply, we can infer that he probably convinced more than one person to sell body parts. He'd allegedly been peddling kidneys for a decade. Listen to that. Oh my goodness, it just gets worse. He'd allegedly been peddling kidneys for a decade. So I guess when they talk about this one case, they probably had him under recording. They probably had some kind of an undercover peace officer working as a person that was about to donate an organ, and that's how they entrapped him. Right? And maybe it's not even entrapment, because that would indicate that the police instigated and initiated the criminal activity. These guys were likely actively, and with their influence, of course, successfully transplanting body parts. Wow, is that not intriguing? It ends by saying, this investigation has transcended multiple administrations of both political parties, so of course, Democrats, Republicans. It is not about politics, certainly not about religion. It is about crime. It is about criminals who use politics and religion. Wow. Criminals that use politics and religion. Think about that. Politicians that are involved in criminality. They use religion in order to profit and involve themselves in criminal activities. Man, that sort of reminds me of the Democratic individuals for the state of California, right? Nancy Pelosi beating the market, insider trading, George Bush, 9/11, instigating wars in the Middle East. So he and his partners, Dick Cheney and BlackRock and all those people can make money. Wow. That reminds me of that right there. Whoa. Religious individuals involved in criminality. Oh, like the Catholic religion, the history of the Catholics, right? Where we know that there's big cases about, child molestation. We know that conquest, the Inquisition, killing people because of what they construe to be lack of faith. My goodness, it sounds like these guys are barely catching on to what politics and religions have been doing forever, which is being involved in criminal activities because they have the power. Good evening for to you, El Pachuco. Buenas noches, saludos igualmente a usted, mi Pachux. Gracias por juntarse con nosotros y reunirse en esta conversación que es un poco macabra, un poco disgustante y ofensivo, pero sin embargo vale la pena. I just bid a good even fall to one of our dedicated listeners, a friend of mine through the internet, El Pachuco. I invited him to a macabre, dark, offensive conversation, but it is a necessary conversation that we are having about the business. Yes, I do say that boldly, the business of organ donation. Right? So now we know that doctors professionals, people that have dedicated themselves to the betterment of life, that they have taken an oath to help the sickly, they could be convinced to abandon all the principles and ethics in order for make a buck. We've now proven that politicians and also religious leaders will abandon their posts, abandon their religious dogmas in order to make a buck off of what they perceive may likely be nothing more than organs and tissues that won't do anybody any good, interred underground for the grubs and the worms and the maggots to eat, right? But for a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen, the dead body to be interred and buried, or to be viable for a visitation, means so much, right? This is why a lot of people choose burial over cremation, because in a burial, there is a place on the earth where a person can pinpoint you where you rest, whether it's as a cadaver, whether it's just bone material, whatnot, osseous material. There is a place where your survivors can symbolically go speak to you, right? But when you donate your body to medicine, when you donate your body to science, you relinquish all of that. Now, there is some benefits, I guess you can say that. There is some benefits to donating your body, your organs, to science and medicine. And what would those be? Well, the first one is this, that although you relinquish all of those rights, the benefit, of course, is the altruism aspect of it, which is you are donating something to further the life of a person that you may not ever meet, that you don't know nothing about who they are, but you are helping them live. That is an altruistic thing, and it will make you feel better if you're on your death throes to think that when you pass, someone else is going to have a second chance. Now, the other benefit of that is the benefit of not burdening your survivors with the exorbitant costs of burial and of even cremation. Cremation is about a fifth of the cost of what a proper burial entails, right? But burial means you have to get a casket. They could be as cheap as $1,500 to as expensive as you want to make them, whatever material, wood, decorations, flares you want to add to them. The place that you want to get buried, the cemetery plot, may also be in the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on the privilege and the luxury of the site that you want to get buried. It could be very expensive. So when you decide to donate your body, they will cremate it, which means that your family is not the one who's going to be bearing the cost of neither burial nor cremation. It will be the institution that will be gathering and handling your remains. So in that sense, you can say, hey, I may be gone. You can have that hard conversation with your family and say, I am an organ donor. I'm doing it because of this and that. But I'm not going to burden you with the financial costs of being heartbroken and indebted in a hurry to find the monies to lay me to rest. So that's a benefit, right? Now, with everything that I'm presenting to you, I'm presenting to you very awkward topics, right? Topics that we would best not contemplate, because they do entail us contemplating our demise. Those questions that we really don't know the answers to. The things that we hope our hopes are right. Is there an afterlife? Is there a heaven and a hell? Where am I going after this? Right? But these are things that will befall all of us, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I always tell you to embrace your beloveds, to make the best of this life, right? Develop good karmic energy. But it seems like these doctors, Maestro Marino, these rabbis, these politicians, they don't think of it like that. The more physical existence, this one right here, in our Mother Earth, Gaia, Pangaea, whatever you want to call it, right? This matters so much to them that they would actually abandon their principles, their ethics for the greenback, the buckaroo. But that's not the only thing, nor the only people that have done that, right? This is another story about what takes place when you donate an organ. And written in the New York Times, an article by Christine Hauser, published the 5th of November, 2021. This missive is titled, "A Body Donated to Science Was Dissected for a Paying Audience." The widow of David Saunders, 98, said she did not know the body of her husband, who died of COVID-19, would be taken apart at an Oregon hotel where audience members paid up to $500 to attend. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to ask it. I'm just going to throw that question to you, Mr. Vince Vargas and Pachuco, whoever's out there listening this broadcast. If you had $500 to spare, or let's say you did even have $500, but your curiosity is such, would you pay $500 to see a corpse dissected before you? Let me know. I'm not going to judge you, right? It's just questions, because obviously these people were curious enough. They paid $500 to watch a body be taken apart. Not only that, but it was actually on video. It starts off by saying the blurred video showed a cadaver on a table in a hotel ballroom. A man stood over the body, addressing an audience that had paid to watch the dissection of a corpse. Some people snapped on gloves and hovered, peering and touching. So there was these people that actually were so curious that they snapped on their gloves, they hovered, looking close, peered into the body, and even touched it. What do you think about that? Is that offensive? Is that ghastly? Mr. Vince Vargas says, nope. I get grossed out pretty easy. Yeah, yeah. I am with you, Mr. Vince Vargas. When I'm biting a piece of steak and I find one of those nerves or tendons, or, you know, those pieces of gray skin, man, I take silver skin. I take them things off and spit it out, and I just grossed out. I'm like, there you go. That's it. That's why I don't need chicken nuggets anymore, because I found too many little hard pieces. And although my dentition, my teeth are strong, I'll tell you what, to bite into something nasty is disgusting enough for me to just be grossed out and don't eat that stuff again. So yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Vargas. I would be pretty grossed out. I don't think I would pay for it, even if I had the money, out of curiosity, right? Because I respect the dead. Now you may think, okay, so you think these people did not respect the dead? Maybe they respected the dead so much that they decided to pay $500 to see it dissected. Or maybe they respect science so much that they decided to expend some money to watch it being dissected, opened. It continues. This was the body of David Saunders, a 98-year-old Louisiana man. It was not, his wife said, what she intended when she donated his body for medical research after he died of COVID-19 in August. It was not, his wife said, what she intended when she donated his body for medical research. Now, you have to ask yourself, this event, this for-profit event that was taking place, was it for medical research? Was it for entertainment purposes? Well, let's find out, right? Because if there is any medical aspect to it, guess what, lady? When you knew that you were giving it to medical research, you don't know what kind of medical research is going to take place, right? So why should you be surprised that this is what it is? But let's just find out exactly why they were hosting this event. She goes on and says, my impression is that it was strictly for medical science, not that his body would be put on display. She described it as morbid, and afterwards she was trying to gather herself after she learned about it through news reports. The dissection was reported at the Seattle television station where a journalist attended the event. That's how they knew about it. The station published footage from the hotel, and this took place in Portland, Oregon. Yep, Portland, Oregon, if you guys don't know, is really a lot like San Francisco. It is actually the San Francisco of the Pacific Northwest. People can freely do drugs, have sex in public, break into businesses, break the windows, walk out with goods. They don't have to pay for it. Nobody's going to get arrested. Crime galore. San Francisco of the Pacific Northwest. 500 a seat for people to watch. This was not science. This was commercialism. All right. It was commercialism. It was money making, Miss Saunders said. Her husband's body was blurred out in the footage, although at one point it appears that the man directing the dissection was holding body parts in his hands and arranging them on a surface. So you can make out the body parts. Obviously, they had to blur it out because then it would become gore, or something equivalent to that. That is impermissible. But you can make out the shapes and the forms. Apparently, they called it a cadaver lab. Brought to you by a company called Death Science and by a second organization called Oddities and Curiosities Expo. So Oddities and Curiosities Expo, if you've ever been to one, they're basically events where people show very scary, intriguing, gruesome things. That's why they're called curiosities and oddities, right? You'll find deformed bodies and incredibly huge skulls, like those people that suffer from cerebral matters, like golden heart syndrome and those kind of things. But there is a business, there is money to be made in those things that would otherwise gross out people, but also introduce them to the mice, right? Now, it goes on and says that this lady, obviously, to find her husband there, really sickened her. To their defense, the founder of Death Science, his name is Jeremy Siliberto, says that his goal is to create an educational experience for individuals who have an interest in learning more about human anatomy. Now, guys, I'm just going to throw something out there. I wonder how many of those people are going to turn out to be psycho killers. I mean, right? Like, man, if these people want to learn how to dissect an individual, who's to say that they're not doing so because they're already curious about doing something that nasty, right? You have to question those type of individuals, the type of individuals that would put themselves in a position to learn how to cut up a body adequately, right? Psycho killers, serial killers. We understand that this event has caused undue stress for the family, and we apologize for that. Okay, yeah, you apologize, but as long as you can keep the money, that's all good, right? Now, of course, you would think that some of this would be criminal, but unfortunately, Nathan Shepard, Lieutenant Nathan Shepard, a spokesman for the Portland Police Bureau, said that detectives consulted with the Oregon Department of Justice and the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, and they concluded that although the section may have violated civil law, in other words, they probably can be sued, there was no criminal laws which we can directly speak of that were violated under these circumstances. So they did not do anything criminal, although they may suffer some kind of civil repercussions. And in fact, the Oregon Department of Health did not respond to requests for comment, but Multnomah County Chief Medical Legal Death Investigator said that the brain and organs had been removed during what she described as a public pay-per-view event. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, when we think about pay-per-view, I know this because we are a boxing venue. We think about, oh, Anthony Joshua, he's going to be fighting Tyson Fury, Mike Tyson fighting Buster Douglas. That's what we think about pay-per-view. You know, Money Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. These guys were paying to view a cadaver. Man, if you feel bad about paying $80 tomorrow for this incredible event that these people willingly, conscientiously know what will take place to their body by going in there and facing their opponents, these guys are willing to pay $500 to pay-per-view to see what happens to a person's body that they had no clue these things would take place in. Now, do you feel like a better person, guys? I do. I feel quite good about paying to support fighters. I don't feel quite good about these people that would pay such money to watch a body being torn open. Right. So now you are considering the type of questions, the type of matters that befall the survivors of the organ donor. Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, if you were to donate your organs, how would your family respond if something like this was to happen to them, where they would discover that your body may not have been violated because you never knew exactly what they were going to do, but then again, because they never told you, right? There really is no violation. A violation would be something to the effect that I will donate my body, but I don't want my body to be completely dissected. I don't want my organs to be pulled out. I don't want this to come out in the pay-per-view event. Since they didn't discuss that and you relinquish all of your rights, you really can't call it a violation, right? Because you basically said, I'm giving up my body to whatever happens afterwards. It's the survivors that once they discover what they can do to your body, they're left with those kind of burdens, those kind of questions, the things that will offend them. You? No, you're long gone, worry-free, right? That is offensive. Check this story out. Central Phoenix News, ABC15.com. A missive written by Ms. Nicole Valdez, titled Valley Man Learns Mom's Body Was Sold for, quote, blast testing. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are out there, I just want you to speculate. I want you to guess. What do you think blast testing means? Before we get into this report. Blast testing. Oh, hey, we're going to have a blast. Is that what you think? Hey, let's test how to have a great blast. What is blast testing? Well, blast testing. I'm not too sure if anybody answered. I doubt it. You guys are enjoying your Friday evening. Let me just get into it right. Blast testing. Let's see what it is. It starts off by saying it's been more than 5 years since Jim Stauffer's mother died in hospice care. Hospice is when a person is deathly sick and they are taken to this establishment where they provide palliative care or management of their pain and suffering, and they find ways to bring a quality of life to your end days, right? Hospice is focused not on improving your medical condition, but allowing a peaceful, as painless as possible, perishing. 73-year-old Doris Stauffer suffered from Alzheimer's disease during the last years of her life, but doctors said she didn't have the gene for it. Doctors worried the disease may have mutated and hoped to study her brain after her passing to find out more. So imagine this. 73-year-old individual by the name of Doris Stauffer. She suffered from Alzheimer's disease, but the doctor said that she didn't have the gene for Alzheimer's disease. So they wanted to find out why it was that a person caught on to Alzheimer's disease when she didn't have the gene that would lead her to have Alzheimer's in the first place. So they wanted to study her in order to find out if there had been some kind of a mutation, to find out more, right? That is valid medical information. So much can happen. Get blasted. Yeah, like, boy, you mean like tattoos? Are you talking about tattoos, or what kind of blasting? By the way, I only know those terms because I know other people have tattoos. Me, myself, I have the body that the supreme beings gave me. As strong, as weak, as brown, or whatever it is, this is the body without any kind of tampering, right? But I'm not too sure if that's what you mean, but get blasted. Yeah, well, let's get to it, right? Blasting. So this person, they wanted to hope that she would donate her body to find out more. And when the time came, her neurologist couldn't accept her body. Her son hoped reaching out to other donation facilities could lead to the same result, which meant that they wanted to actually donate the body, but the neurologist couldn't do anything about it. Jim Stauffer, the son, says, I felt foolish because I'm not a trusting person. But in this situation, you have no idea this is going on. You trust. I think that trust is what they feed on. Now he's getting to the point where he felt that he was violated of the trust that he applied to these medical professionals. He says he's not a trusting individual anyways, but he still fell for it. And now he is trying to explain why people have trust issues when it comes to donations, right? A company by the name of Biological Resource Center came to pick up his mother's body within 45 minutes of her death. Quote, there was paperwork signed stating what was and what was not to happen with her body, added Stauffer. Listen, so I guess sometimes when you donate body, you can, under certain conditions, especially if you're dealing with private businesses like Biological Resources Center seems to be, there are papers that you can sign stating what can and cannot be done with your body. So this is a special case because this is different to the ones that we've been researching, right? This one actually allows for some kind of leniency in how they manage and handle your body. So we can assume that this individual, either Mr. Stauffer himself, the survivor's son, or his wife, his mother Doris, had some say in the way that they would handle her body. But I don't think so much Miss Doris, because at the end, remember, she perished from complications of Alzheimer's. Days later, he received a wooden box with his mother's information and an ID number. Inside, he was told, was a majority of her ashes. Years went by before Stauffer learned what was. Years went by before Stauffer learned what he was told wasn't the case. He received documents from Reuters reporters showing a paper trail of where his mom's body really went. Okay, where did his mom's body went? Wow, check this out. According to Reuters, yep, that established news reporting agency, Miss Doris Stauffer's body was one of many bodies sold to, lo and behold, the U.S. Army for something called blast testing. Here is what blast testing is. Wow. Quote, this is blast testing. She was then supposedly strapped in a chair on some sort of apparatus, and the detonation took place underneath her to basically get an idea of what the human body goes through when a vehicle is hit by an improvised explosive device. Are you hearing this? Did you just hear that? The United States government, the military, bought not only Miss Doris Stauffer's body, but many bodies to test what the body goes through when it gets exploded to smithereens and to taters by an improvised explosive device. They put a bomb underneath a chair, likely inside of a vehicle. They strapped her body and blew her up. This is what your US government is doing to the remains of its citizens. Quote, there was actual wording on this paperwork about performing this stuff, performing these medical tests that may involve explosions. And we said, no, check that out. We checked the no box on all of that. Years later, Stauffer still struggles with the idea they violated the, the promise that they were going to handle the body according to their wishes. And they still sold it to the highest bidder. And who is more highest bidder than the US government? The guys who print the money. Nobody. They violated the desires of the family, where they said, I don't want her to be exploded. And that's exactly what they did. And he goes on to describe the lament and the pain caused. He says, I don't see a pathway of ever getting past this. Every time there's a memory, every time there's a photograph you look at, there's this ugly thing that happened just right there, staring right at you. Wow. Every time he looks at a photograph or reflects on a good experience with his mother, he thinks about how she was exploded apart into a bloody mess. Wow. They didn't care about the families. They didn't care about the people. And they didn't care about the memories, he goes on and says. Stauffer is one of many plaintiffs now named in a suit against Biological Resource Center and its owner, Stephen. Last name Gore. Can you believe that? His name is Stephen Gore. Now, you can't write this stuff up, guys. You can't make this stuff up. Stephen Gore. Last name, wow. His last name is Gore. Now, listen. Of course, we know that one of the interesting things about the English language, right, is that when we unite a letter P and an H, it makes an F sound. But for the most part, if for a non-English speaker, if somebody was to run into the name of Stephen, Stephen, and they're just saying the word according to the sounds that they expect the letters to make, the name would be Stephen Gore. This individual named Stephen Gore, we can assume that Stephen Gore, he really actually does Stephen Gore. Wow. You can't make this up. Wow. Incredible. This is apparently the very first report written by Reuters about this institution in Arizona, right? It's written by John Schiffman, Reed Levinson, and Brian Grow. A special report, a business where human bodies were butchered, packaged, and sold. This is Reuters. Sam Kazemi stood over an old man's corpse. Nearby lay pliers, a scalpel, and a motorized saw designed to cut drywall and pipe. On a busy day, Kazemi might harvest body parts from 5 or 6 people who had donated their bodies to science. On this day in November 2013, the corpse before Kazemi typified the donors who gave the remains to his employer, Biological Resource Center. One of the man that they're about to open up or cut into parts, the man was a retired factory worker with a 9th grade education. He lived with his wife in a mobile home in the Mojave Valley, Arizona, and had died 6 days earlier, aged 75. His name was Conrad Patrick. But after he died, his body was donated. Patrick became a commodity. In other words, something that can be sold and traded. Known not by his name, but quote unquote, by a number. BRC 131121003. Reuters reviewed thousands of internal BRC records and confidential law enforcement documents containing profiles of Patrick and 2,280 other donors. The documents include invoices and inventories, yep, receipts, for thousands of body parts harvested from these people. They showed how their bodies were dissected, which body parts were sent where, and why buyers obtained them. Why buyers obtained them. Kazemi helped cut up and package Patrick into 7 pieces. Wow, they're keeping an inventory, guys. They have numbers so they could track you. They are maintaining this inventory. Patrick was cut into 7 pieces. His left foot went to a Chicago-based orthopedic lab. His left shoulder went to a Las Vegas company that holds surgical seminars. His head and spine went to a project run by the U.S. Army. And Patrick's external reproductive organs, yep, his penis, his testes, were sent to a local university. His right foot and left knee were placed in the company's freezers, where they became part of BRCC's $1 million inventory of flesh and bone. So they are making millions of dollars selling these parts that people donate. They're in it for profit, guys. And they call themselves body brokers. It goes on to describe how these operations resemble meat packing companies. They harvest heads, fingernails are pulled, harvested, sold. They actually teach you how to carve out a spine from the body using a motorized saw. They have videos for educational purposes. This report was very, very involved in the sense that it gives a bunch of details about these prices. For $607, BRC sold the liver of a public sport janitor to a medical device company. The torso of a bank manager who retired went to a Swiss research institute where they sold it for $3,191. A Midwest healthcare system paid $65 for 2 arteries from a church minister. Hey, even the men of God donate their body parts, and all they could fetch is $65. Wow. But that's funny, right? I mean, the church industries are not supposed to be in it for profit, so that makes sense that they got $65 for a minister. But yet for the Swiss banker, when they sold it to a Swiss institution, which of course there are Swiss bankers where you could take all your millions of dollars, things of that sort, and you don't even have to report them for tax purposes and tax dodging purposes. They sold that torso for $3,100. So it seems like, according to your profession, sort of the prices of your body parts are in line with that profession, right? Wow, incredible. This, if you guys want to know more about these things, of course, this report is written in Reuters, jp.reuters.com, and it's titled "A Business Where Human Remains Were Butchered, Packaged, and Sold." Right. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little disgusted and a bit overwhelmed about everything that we're discovering now. Now, you got to understand one thing. These reports that I'm presenting to you, they are for the most part new to me also. I did a quick search on some topics. One thing led to another. I found some articles. I read the titles. For the most part, that's it. But I did not read anything more of the contents of the body of these reports, because I wanted to experience this information and learn at the same time with you guys, right? So whatever you're going through, I'm going through right now, guys. Really, I am. Now, that's not the only time that you can make money. Not through just American businesses. You can actually make money from your enemies, right? And it makes sense, right? If you're in a theater of war, it doesn't matter how you get it done. If you're in war, you have your enemy, you have your weapon, they have the weapon, the object is to kill each other. Doesn't matter how you do so, you kill them, right? But sometimes you don't always kill the person. You may just injure him, you disable them somehow, and they become your prisoners. So, how long has this been going on? Well, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. New details emerge in the Kosovo organ trafficking case. December 14th, 2010, written by Lawrence Marzouk and the Balkan Transitional Justice Report. This is titled A Trial of Seven Kosovo Residents Suspected of Involvement in a Massive Human Trafficking Ring in 2008 is being linked to allegations that members of the Kosovo Liberation Army sold the organs of prisoners during the 1999 conflict. Right? This report, titled New Details Emerging Kosovo Organ Trafficking, it talks about how the Kosovo Liberation Army sold the organs of their prisoners of wars in 1999. The allegations that some elements of the Kosovo Liberation Army traded the organs of prisoners during the 1999 conflict is something that was linked to a report written by the Council of Europe. The rights reporter Dick Marty reports that there is credible, convergent indications that the removal of organs from prisoners in Albania by the KLA is closely related to the contemporary case of the Medikas Clinic. So there was this clinic called the Medikas Clinic. We're going to probably find out more about the Medikas Clinic. Quote, as when the transplant surgeons were confirmed to be in position and ready to operate, the captives were brought out of their safe house individually, summarily executed by a KLA gunman, and their corpses transported swiftly to the operating clinic. Of course, this means that they keep these prisoners alive, right? Up until they know that the doctors are ready to open them up and harvest their organs, and then they take them to the operating room, kill them right there so that the organs are fresh and well preserved as possible. Then the doctors go to town. Eddie, very good evening fall to you. Prime Video has it for purchase as well. What does? You're talking about these videos right here? Oh, you're talking about the fights. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, hey, whoever wants to present one of the biggest, most incredible boxing events out there, I'm all for it. Prime TV, Top Rank ESPN Plus, Match from the Zone. I don't care. If we can, let's make this a successful event so we can have many more events that are chock full of good fights, but hopefully won't come out too expensive. Hey, Turki Ali Sheik and Mr. Eddie Hearn, they overcalculated, they overvalued how much people would be willing to pay for the tickets. Guess what? That is data. If anything, we know that the Zone is a data processing company as much as it is a company dedicated to athletics and organized violence. So yeah, good to see you here, Adamedi. Hey, thank you very much for the laughs, man. I was actually reading the comments from last night just because I look, I I didn't want to read your comments as much because you are absolutely hilarious, and I have this issue, right? I have this breathing issue where, eh, uh, like, I can suffocate quickly. So if I start laughing a lot, I will start basically asphyxiating because I can get into these little ruts of good guffaws, right? And then I'll just keep on laughing and laughing. I'll get giggles, and then all of a sudden I'm having breathing issues. So I did not want to read them, but man, I was reading them today. You know, after having been a bit acclimated to the man, you are absolutely hilarious. You are the Ronnie Dangerfield of YouTube. But thank you again for being here. We're talking about the nasty business of organ donation. And for an hour and a half now, Addie, we've gone through some of the more underreported, grotesque, and ghastly matters revolving organ donation. You let me know, Addie Medi, what is your position on donation of organs, if you're still there? But going on, right? So these warriors for the KIA, they would hold these prisoners until these doctors were ready to operate. Then they were, quote unquote, shot in the head before their kidneys were removed in a secret detention center in Albania. 7 Mediscus-linked suspects appeared in court on Tuesday in Pristina, accused of bringing up to 30 people plucked from the poorest corners of the world to Kosovo under the false promise that they would be paid for their kidneys. Right. So okay. So I guess they weren't prisoners of war. They were just people that they brought up with their false promises that they would get paid for their kidneys. But in fact, all they did was just hold them there, kidnap them, shot them in the head, and then they opened them up. Among the accused is a Dr. Lufti Dershevi, as well as a known urologist who is believed to be the ringleader, and his son Arban, who managed the clinic. So Dr. Dershevi and his son Arban, they were running a very tight clinic, very profitable one, right? Kosovo has a ban. Back then, Kosovo had a ban on private clinics carrying out these type of organ transplant operations. So they couldn't be for profit. In other words, private, which usually means for profit. They had to be public, like maybe reputable hospitals and whatnot. 3 other doctors were involved in and suspected of involvement. 5 men pleaded guilty. Who's going to plead guilty, right, to doing these things? Although some doctors, Islam Batiki and Sulejman Dula, did not enter a plea. They just kept mum about it. The organs came from as many places as Moldova, Turkey, and Kazakhstan. Whoa! Triple G, Israel Madrimov, where were you when your fellow Kazakhstanis needed your help, buddy? They were opening them up. Come on, Triple G. Man, got to do better, buddy. Just kidding. Seven Kosovars were allegedly aided by Dr. Yusuf Solmez, who is wanted for organ trafficking charges, and a series of other countries, and Moshe Harel, an Israeli of Turkish origin, who the prosecutor says acted as the gang's fixer, finding both doctors and recipients and handling funds. So the Turkish Jewish Israeli guy is the one who would hook up people. He was the liaison. Both men are currently on the run, and Interpol notices that have been issued out for their arrest. I'm not too sure if these guys have been arrested, but we know that this encompassed countries from recipients such as Israel, Canada, and Poland. All those places were dealing with these. I don't know if they're military or paramilitary for Kosovo, the KLA, but they were buying these body parts from these people that they would entrap and then imprison, kidnap, and then execute under false pretenses of payment. And they were, of course, exploiting the extreme poor, according to their investigations. The gang was uncovered after a 24-year-old man of Turkish origin, Yaman Altun, was stopped at an airport in November 2008 as he was about to board a plane to Istanbul. They started to ask him about upon his arrival about what his whereabouts were and what he was planning to do, and he presented a letter from Medicus claiming that he was in Kosovo for medical treatment. So somebody was already investigating Medicus as an institution. Right. So when he presented this letter that he was there in Kosovo to meet with medical personnel from Medicus, that probably was already a company name that was already on some kind of a list. So that's when they started to investigate a bit more. They started to probe him. They allowed him his departure, though. At his departure, however, he admitted that he had donated a kidney, and after a medical inspection, was sent to a hospital. Whoa, whoa, whoa! So they brought this guy in there. This guy is one of the guys that they didn't kill, but they brought him in, and he told them He admitted that he was there to donate a kidney. That's when they started to investigate a bit more about Medicus, and that's when the Kosovo police and the UN mission in Kosovo then raided Medicus, discovering the elderly Israeli recipient in bed as well as expired medicine. Wow. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is crazy. My goodness. What? So this 24-year-old guy, they fly him in there to Kosovo so that he can meet with these doctors of a company called Medicus, who is executing prisoners to harvest their organs. And he sold a kidney to an elderly Israeli recipient who they found him in bed as well as expired medicine. This guy was still in bed, just having received this organ, and he was asleep. Imagine this old Israeli individual. It doesn't say how old he was, but he was obviously sickly enough to need an organ. But he was old enough to and rich enough, obviously, to pay this person to fly from another part of the world to arrive there to donate their kidney. This is the fear people have of dying. They may be so old, so sickly, they'll still pay big money to continue to live, and their frail, sickly, wrinkly body, because they fear death. And guess what? I would say that is Israeli elderly individual now has another reason to fear death, because if there is a heaven and a hell, if there is karma, my goodness, your depravity, your desire to live was so vast that you actually would pay a person to pry out their organs to give it to you, as if fate isn't a thing, as if you're somehow gonna escape death, as if you couldn't even die right there at the operating table. Man, my goodness, I think that guy is gonna have a special place in the netherworld. Wow, my goodness. The recipient, check this out, the recipient, according to the indictment, paid around $90,000 for that operation. Right? So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Organ harvesting does not only take place in Mexico and the US, New Jersey. It also takes place in Kosovo and places of war and battle and strife. And irrespective of the battles going on, rich individuals will still fly over there to these theaters of war in order to get the body parts of another individual put on them. Well, I do hope that those body parts weren't compatible, so that, well, you know what, I'm not going to wish anybody bad. But if anybody, man, it is quite ghastly and sickly what these people would do. Another doctor named in the indictment, Israeli national Zaki Shapira, is described as an indicted co-conspirator. Wow, right? Wow, what a whopper. Man, this is just crazy, guys, right? This is incredible. Now, what is the direction that we should take when it comes to this here matter, right? Is it good to donate your organs? You know, screw what happens afterwards. You and your intentions are what matters. I agree with that philosophy, right? Like, for example, if the world is going to hell and everybody is depraved and malicious, and the pressure of being depraved and malicious is burdensome, but you say, nope, I'm going to be true to myself, and I'm just going to be a good individual as far as I can take that. I won't change according to social pressures. I will be myself. Yeah. I can see that. Your intention by donating your body to medicine and science is to do well for others. You are being altruistic. You have no control of what take place after you depart, right? That's all you can do, right? You can control who you are here in this world, and once you pass, you have no control over. So you're ex- absolved, absolved. I mean, of any kind of consequence for what these people do. I get that. You are doing the right thing, but I'm just exposing some of the things out there. I'm just bringing to light some of the things that you probably did not know, nor had you considered when you or anybody around you thinks about donating their organs. Just trying to enlighten you. All right. Now, mind you, you're not the only person. Here's another thing. And this is more of the important side of things, right? This is more for the practical person that may want to or may not want to donate organs. Look, if you do not want to donate any of your body parts, make sure you keep that in your advanced directives. If you do not know what advanced directives are medical legal documents that you write out where you express your desires about what the medical practitioners should do in next cases. Like, for example, if you are brain dead, should they continue to keep you artificially alive by electrodes and ventilators, breathing tubes, defibrillators, and whatnot? If you are in a coma, right? Do you want them to pull the plug to give you 6 months of fighting chance, 2 years? What do you want them to do? Do you want to donate your body or not? You have to express those desires of yours so that these documents can be honored in a medical context, in a medical setting, right? Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, and you don't let your family members know what your wishes are, your family members can make those decisions for you. According to the NIA, right? This is the National Institute on Aging. There is this segment that talks about family members choosing to donate the organs of the loved one who has just passed. And the question is, can family members choose to donate their loved one's organs after they die? What do you guys think? Do you think your family members can decide what the medical industry should do with your body parts? Yes or no? Right? I mean, I've detailed many ways how even when you say things, they violate it. I've mentioned many ways for why when you decide to do something, you may not necessarily know exactly if that's the reason. That is what will happen. You can have preferences about what they do with your body, but that's not necessarily the case in all the times, right? So, what would you guys think? Can a family member or family members decide what they should do with your body? Yes or no? Okay. Shy, huh? You guys are shy. Okay. Well, this is what the report says. If a person is not registered to donate their organs, their family may make that decision on their behalf. Their family may make the decision on that dying person's behalf to donate their organs. A member of the OPO, whatever that is, must obtain consent from the family before organ donation. However, the family cannot override the person's decisions to donate their organs if they have registered to donate or stated it in their advanced directives. Okay, what's it saying? It's saying that yes, your family members, your survivors can donate your body. So this is why you should be a good person, guys. If you are a good person, if you pass away, you want your family members not to donate your body, or maybe you do want to donate your body under certain conditions. One, you should talk to those family members about those desires. Two, don't risk it. Right? Leave those things in writing. But three, behave good around your family members so that when they decide to do what's right. In other words, they should not decide to donate your body simply because they don't want to give you a proper burial, because nobody plans on visiting you, because you've been a scoundrel, because you've been a douchebag, because you've been a massive jerk. Right? Put them in a position where they love you, where they will miss you, and where you think they will make a respectful decision according to who you were and what they should do with your remains. Right? Now, if you have it in writing, as in these advanced directives, even if they want to donate them, they cannot override your decision. See, you're learning a lot here at Life at Warp Speed. No, yeah, no, but they could, Mr. Vince Vargas, they absolutely could. They could donate your body, because you never actually stated in writing what you want anybody to do with your body. You see, so they actually can. That's why it's better to keep these things in writing. Don't leave it to chance. See, I'm learning these things with you guys. I know some of the terms, like, advanced directives and things of the sort, because I've dealt with those matters and the professions that I've had. But a lot of the other topics I'm discovering with you in real time. Right. Now, to wrap up this here live, because I think we've discussed too many ghastly things. I'm a very happy individual, guys. I but I'm curious, right? But I don't like to delve into these type of matters. In fact, I'm such a scaredy cat. I don't even watch scary movies. Mr. Vince Vargas says they can make the decision on the burial. Not sure anyone in my family growing up ever donated. Yeah, I don't think none of my family has either, Mr. Vargas, and that's okay. We don't have to, right? In fact, one of the things that I had read about those rabbis right there, that I was telling you, those rabbis over there in in New Jersey and whatnot, is that there was another segment to that report that talked about how there's a big industry involving the black market and even legalized donation industries, like the ones that we just mentioned over there in the Mojave Desert of Arizona, in the Phoenix region, that are mostly ran by people of the Jewish denomination. But that report, I think it was also written in Haaretz, or one of those Jewish newspapers. They talk about how a lot of Israeli Jews are involved in this type of business, but yet the percentage of Israeli people, or people of the Jewish faith, their levels of donation of body parts are like 2%. So they make big money off of them, but they themselves don't believe in organ donation to the point that their levels are minimal. So it's like they believe in making money, but they don't believe in actually participating in that industry that makes money. They don't believe in giving up their organs to save another person's life or give another person a chance, right? But of course, when those doctors were caught, they said that they didn't feel bad about doing it, because they were doing it for altruistic good reasons. They weren't necessarily doing it for money, although they got paid money. They were doing it to give people a second chance. Well, put up or shut up, right? If you really are doing it to save people and you're doing it for good reasons, how come your donation levels don't match? Right? Very interesting topics. I didn't want to go there just because I don't want to make it like, an impression that I'm against certain denominations or other things like that. I don't care about religions that much. I don't love nor hate anybody based off their credences, but I did read that report. It was part of some of those missives. I didn't want to accentuate it because I don't want to be construed as somebody that has some kind of um, a negative opinion about certain faiths, right? But it was a reality. Good even fall to Mr. Truly Trey. Gotta have to watch this from the beginning. Gonna have to watch this from the beginning, Mr. Okay, Truly Trey. Right. I am doing what you would call a deep dive, which is delving into a subject matter with an intent to discover and learn. And the topic of the day, the topic du jour, is the business, and I, put in parentheses, the nasty business of organ donation. And I do accentuate the word business because a lot of my discoveries have led me to believe that it is a nasty business out there. It's not really an altruistic business, say, to donate organs, or the reason why people decide to do these things is because they really are trying to save a life. No, a lot of it seemingly revolves around record breaking money, $1 billion industry that we know of, right? And we're not even talking about the black market, the dark web, or all those horror stories that you hear. We're talking about the verified and quantifiable market of organ donation. And we have addressed a lot of incredible things that you may not have ever considered. It is ghastly, it is macabre, it is disgusting, it is offensive, but it is enlightening because now we are empowering ourselves. I did not do this research beforehand. I took a topic, I researched a couple of things. Some things led me to research a couple of things, but all I did was take some reports just based off the titles that looked intriguing or that would help me guide this show into a direction that I can manage. And then I read them in real time to you guys. So we're learning together. Truly Trey, welcome on board. Yeah, and I encourage you to watch this from the beginning because I think I've actually done a good job. So if I do say so myself. Now, just to wrap it up right, let us consider why we may want to donate. Because I don't just want to make it a, negative Nancy kind of a thing, right? Well, if there is a scarcity of organs, well, what happens is there's going to be a lot of people that will not get a second chance, right? That's one reason for why people should consider organ donation. Secondly, if there is an abundance of organs, well, that would mean that, of course, the desire to pursue these organ in the dark markets, the black markets or otherwise, is not a necessity. Why? Because there is a reason why those black markets are there. Black markets cater to industries and things that are hard to obtain, that either because of dogmas or the notoriety or the criminality or otherwise, they aren't allowed or permitted in the commonplace, right? But a lot of people, according to some reports, do go into the dark markets to purchase organs because they don't want to wait the 2 or 3 years or whatever in hopes that they don't die waiting for their turn to get an organ transplant, right? So they just bypass that whole queue and then they just go and meet with some random stranger, pass a brown bag full of X amount of money, and a person gives you a little cooler with the liver or a pancreas or whatnot. And the thing about the black market is, if let's say that there was other parts of the world where they just harvest body parts because their levels of organ donations were vast, but they were just selling them to the black market purchasers of countries that do not allow transplants, or maybe they have an embargo with those countries or what otherwise, right? Because of medical principles or ethics or whatnot. If that was just the case, okay, that's one thing, right? That just means you're bypassing something that has really no kind of repercussion because a person donated the organs willingly and whatnot. But guess what? That's not seemingly what happens. The horror stories that we hear are about people being kidnapped, imprisoned, and stripped of their viscera to make money. I told you about that famous story of the 9-year-old kid who was snatched in the border towns of Tijuana. It was in the Tijuana or Mexicali. The mother turned around to purchase some kind of trinket for the open air market. She looks back, her child is missing. 30 minutes later, as the police have already scoured the area, they find the emptied, hollowed out body of the young child, missing all of his organs stitched up from the chest. We told those stories. This is what the black market promises: a way to make things happen with no trace and no repercussion, no guilt, no waiting in line, just getting your chance to the highest bidder. Eddie says, so who's in the business of selling pianos? I don't know. I don't know who's in the business of selling pianos. I don't know, like uh, uh, music places, Guitar Center. I don't know, but if there was more organs available, perhaps there wouldn't be such demand for the black market, right? Perhaps that would mean that we would help decrease the levels of kidnappings and organ harvesting of the Chinese allegedly having concentration work camps for religious Uyghurs. We wouldn't have prisoners of war that take their enemies and execute them and have a patient waiting right next to them as they get their head blown off, waiting for that organ, fresh organ, to be transplanted. We may forego these kind of activities if we donated more organs. And this is actually quite interesting, right? You would be surprised. There's actually a report that says that even when people donate, they don't necessarily get those organs, or even does the medical industry even use them, right? What's the point if, according to this report right here titled Hospitals Are Throwing Out Organs and Denying Transplants to Meet Federal Standards, written by Casey Ross, STAT, whatever that is, PBS.com. Apparently, even when people donate, not all of those organs ever make it to the person that they want to donate it and save their life or give them a second chance. Hospitals frequently throw them out because they are denied federal standards. It reads like this: hospitals across the United States are throwing away less than perfect organs and denying the sickest people life-saving transplants out of fear that poor surgical outcomes will result in a federal crackdown. Wow, listen to this. Hospitals across the United States are throwing away less than perfect organs. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, do you think you have a perfect organ? What does a perfect organ mean? Does it have to come from somebody like Devin Haney, a perfect athlete, an incredible specimen of athleticism and dedication, and of purity of body? Well, I wouldn't say purity of body, because as an individual Muslim, I believe that he does try to stay away from intoxicants and alcohol and those kind of things, right? But who is a candidate for a perfect organ? What does that mean? The youthful, the ones that are born perfectly healthy with no congenital conditions, a person that's never taken an alcoholic beverage, never puffed on a verdant green. What does a perfect organ mean? In order for them to be so nitpicky that they would throw away organs and forego giving a person a transplant because those organs may be less than quote unquote perfect, because they are afraid of a federal crackdown. And why were they feared that the federal government would crack down on institutions that are trying to save people's lives? It goes on to say that thousands of patients are losing the chance at surgeries that will significantly prolong their lives. And the altruism of organ donation is being wasted. Yup, even when you want to do right. And even when they can prolong people's lives, sometimes they won't do it because the federal government's involvement is such that these hospitals are afraid. Dr. Adele Borso-Garcede is a transplant surgeon at UMass Memorial in Worcester, Mass, says it's gut-wrenching and mind-boggling. Well, it's gut-wrenching and mind-boggling that you'd be so cowardly to think that the federal government is just watching. Buddy, didn't the federal government just approve you to diagnose people with COVID so that you can inject them at $18,000 in a syringe? Wasn't that mind-boggling and gut-wrenching when you were profiting like a MFer, when the federal government was your ally in the business of life and death and COVID-19? Don't be a hypocrite. Be real, right? But it continues on, right? He co-authored a recent study that showed a sharp uptick in the number of people dropped from organ transplant waiting lists since the federal government set transplant standards in 2007. These standards are tied to federal hospital ratings and Medicare funding, which is the main payer for transplants and a key source of income for hospitals. And hospitals' ability to meet those standards help determine the reputation within the medical community. Okay, so I guess they're trying to say that the federal government in 2007 set uh, transplant standards, which allows them to be rated upon, and if they don't meet a certain rating, the federal government will cut their funding because perhaps the transplants are themselves subpar and inadequate, or maybe they suffer repercussions, or maybe they don't take the proper protocols to make sure that they are viable organs or they are compatible with the recipient. There are so many things that we have to factor here, right? But something affects their ratings, and they are so fearful of that. And it goes on to say that surgeries involving imperfect organs, duh, right? And extremely ill patients who are more risky. Okay, now I understand. That deters these hospitals for wanting to do so. Man. So these hospitals only want to take their risks when everything is perfectly suited for them. In other words, assume all risks, assume the lowest risk for the most profit. Hey, sounds like the sport of business, right, guys? Low risk, high reward. That's what everybody wants. This is why I always tell you, let's not be too harsh on our fighters when they want to take easy fights for the biggest money. But if they're taking on the easiest fights, the least money, man, that's a dumb move. If you're taking on the hardest fights for the least money, that's another dumb move. This is why I'm not too harsh on our fighters. But there you go. I just made the connection. I just anchored it to boxing. Eddie Medi says the answer to who's in the business of selling pianos, your title says they're donating organs. You're smart. You're clever. Money trumps federal standards. Yeah, but some of these institutions, especially when you're dealing with Medicare contracts, Medicare contracts are the most lucrative. In fact, I know institutions. One of the most biggest expanding organizations out there right now, do your research, is called Oak Street Health. Oak Street Health is an institution in the medical practices that deals with Medicare recipient and Medicare aged people. So that means from 62 and up, right? They are ubiquitous. That means they are found everywhere. Every week or so, they are popping up another clinic. Why? Because they are only dealing with Medicare recipients and Medicare aged individuals. Why? Because the federal government provides so much of their medical attention, right? So it is a lucrative business to get federal money. So I do understand these institutions are doing it to get the to meet the federal standards to get that federal money. So you would say that money trumps federal standards, which makes me think that a business like a hospital should worry more about making money over whatever standards the federal government has. Or maybe you're trying to say that these experts know more about medical settings, so they and their opinion should trump the federal standards, right? Unfortunately, the thing about that though, Arimedi, is that a lot of the times they do get people that are already involved in the medical practice to run these federal medical institutions like Medicare and whatnot, the Department of Health and the National Institute of Health. I think that one's run by, you know, what's his name, Fauci, that guy, right? They have a lot of power and they do know their stuff. That's why they set those standards. But nonetheless, it does talk about how a lot of these people, and it mentions about 86%. It gives a number right here. More than 4,300 transplant patients were removed from waiting lists by hospitals in 5 years of their study. It was up around 86% from the 2,311 patients delisted in the 5 years prior to this regulation, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, when you consider organ donation, you have so much to factor in your decision. What will it affect? How will it affect your family? Should you care? Are you doing it for altruistic reasons? Are you doing it to make the burden, the financial burden on your families lessened? Are you trying to do good, give a person a second chance? Why do medical professionals do it? Are they doing it to save a person's life? Are they doing it to make money? Will they actually provide you the most, utmost professional, necessary medical care in order to keep you alive? Or will they only have assets in order for you to perish so that they could harvest your organs and sell them? Can more organ transplants and organ donations help minimize the illegal black market of harvest organing and kidnapping? You have to ask all of these questions when you decide to take on something as important, seemingly as important as organ donation, right? And the funny thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, is that you will be dead for the most part once your organs are removed to either make money for an individual or to save a life or to give a second chance, right? Even when you die, the matters surrounding your life do not end. Even when we perish, we mean so much to so many. This is one of the reasons why I always try to accentuate and emphasize the importance of you, Eddie Medi, of you, Truly Trey, of you, Mr. Vince Vargas, of you, El Pachuco. You mean everything while you are alive, to yourself and to so many others. Even when we transcend, you will mean so much to so many. Value yourself so that others can find that value and cherish you. We mean so much to so many people and so many things. And I want you to understand that, so that when you have to entertain these matters, when you have to Make these decisions on your own or with the help of the closest ones around you, that you make the wisest, most suitable decisions according to the impact that you want to leave in this world, because you mean everything. I love you all. Just to run it by before we leave, cracked.com is hilarious. I think of Cracked like the magazine that was a competitor to Mad Magazine. But cracked.com has a report written by an individual called Kelly Stone titled "The Horrifying Truths About Donating Dead Bodies to Science." Let me just run some of these things. The horrifying truths about donating dead bodies to science, and then we'll wrap it up. 5. The military can buy you to use for experiments and blast testing. We covered that. 2. There's an industry making huge money selling poor people's donated bodies. We talked about how rabbis, paramilitaries, countries, governors, doctors, all of them are in this multi-billion-dollar business. 3. In order to be sold, you will be most certainly be hacked into various parts and sent wherever. We talked about Biological Research Center in the Phoenix, Arizona, Mojave Desert region. 2. They'll mangle you with chainsaws and saw your head to another body for kicks. For kicks, ladies and gentlemen. When they raided Biological Resources Center, again in Phoenix, they found a cooler filled with penises, a bucket of heads, arms, and legs, pools of human blood, and bodily fluids. Bodies had been hacked up with chainsaws or hacksaws. And a female head had been sewn into a male torso and hung on the wall, as an agent described it, in a Frankenstein manner. And 1. Your dismembered bits might end up on display in a hotel ballroom somewhere. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've learned something with me. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's been helpful to me. I don't know if I'm going to donate to organs or not. Likely not, if they're going to be sewing my head to a female torso. I don't want that. No, but then again, I guess maybe some of these transsexuals, transgenders, or whatever, they may benefit themselves from having my reproductive organs. And I only joke partially because I respect these people. I've known many of these people, and they're lovely people. Although I may disagree whether or not they should be partaking in sports with biological men and women. But nonetheless, that's a whole different conversation. I love everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are well of health and sane of mind. Warped Speed bids you adieu. Goodbye and good night.